Hi everyone, very good evening and welcome back to CrackGradeB. So we are going to do the remaining questions on the restructuring and recovery, right, related MCQs. So let us talk about it. We'll talk about some provisioning norms, etc., some resolution plans related things. Let us kickstart. So number one question that we have is in relation to secured portion of an advance which has remained in doubtful category for more than 3 years. Provisioning requirement needs to be. So now few things that you have to notice. We are talking about secured portion remained in doubtful category for more than 3 years. आपसे time limit भी आपको time limit भी बताई गई है. So over here obviously you have to take the provisioning as 100% in relation to this particular NPA because the timing that you see over here, जो आप ये timing देखेंगे, this particular timing has been more than 3 years. So even if you are in the doubtful category, even if you have got security for that, you cannot keep it ज़्यादा time के लिए, and that is why 100% provisioning is required. And for unsecured doubtful assets, obviously 100% is required. Now next is infrastructure loan accounts which are classified as substandard. They will attract the provisioning of infrastructure related loan accounts which has been classified as substandard. कितना इनको percentage provisioning चाहिए होगा? They need a provisioning of 20%, right? Next we have in the heading of standard asset provisioning norm for farm credit to agricultural activities, individual housing loan and small and micro enterprises sectors at. Now, two things to notice. We are talking about standard asset first. Just a second. Yeah. We are talking about standard asset and then we are talking about the types of credit as farm credit to agricultural activities, housing loans and small and medium enterprises. So what is going to be the provisioning norm? It is going to be 0.25%. ठीक है, कितना होगा ये? 0.25%. Now standard assets, farm credit to the agricultural activities, individual housing loan, SME sector, provision needs to be created at 0.25%. Advances to the commercial real estate sector, if it is a standard asset, ठीक है, commercial real estate को आपने दिया है, standard asset है, provisioning required is 1%. And if you have given to commercial real estates residential housing sector, then 0.75 is the provisioning which is required. Now, just a second. I guess we are missing out on a question. Wait, yes. So we have question number 19. Provisioning coverage ratio is essentially the ratio of provisioning to gross non-performing assets and indicates the extent of funds a bank has kept aside to cover the loan losses. Now what bank should ensure? ठीक है? So now we'll understand this through what you can say the answer that has been provided. So first thing first, you have to understand PCR means provisioning coverage ratio. It talks about what is the provisioning you have kept to gross non-performing assets. Remember, gross non-performing asset. What is the NPA that you are having and how much provision you have kept for it. Provision is, this is the amount of saving we keep for our future needs, future liability needs. So you have been recommended कि आपको ensure करना चाहिए at least 70% provision coverage ratio. So for example, I have 1 lakh rupees worth of asset which has converted into NPA. तो अब मेरे पास में कम से कम 70,000 रुपए का provision होना चाहिए. I should be having a provision of at least 70%, right? Now, next question. So the scheduled commercial bank shall report credit information including classification of an account as special mention account to central repository of information on large credit on all borrowers having the aggregate exposure of. मतलब कि आपको किसको बताना है credit information? To central repository of information. Now what is the threshold for that? 5 crores and above. ठीक है, क्या थ्रेशोल्ड है उसका? 5 करोड़ या उससे ज्यादा. सो शेड्यूल्ड कमर्शियल बैंक शैल रिपोर्ट दिस इंफॉर्मेशन if an account has been converted into a special mention account to central repository of information for all the borrowers whosoever is having the aggregate exposure of 5 crores and more. ठीक है, जिनका भी exposure 5 करोड़ या उससे ज्यादा रहा है. Now next we have question number 21. So in any case, once a borrower is reported to be in default by any of the lenders, lender shall undertake a review of the borrower account. अगर किसी एक लेंडर ने भी किसी borrower को अगर डिफॉल्टर घोषित किया है, right, so all the lenders has to take a review of it, right? So once a borrower is reported to be in default by any of the lenders, in that particular case review needs to happen within 30 days from such default. That means as soon as possible, जितना जल्दी हो सके. अगर किसी एक लेंडर का भी आपने डिफॉल्ट किया है, so now it is obligation on to the all the lenders that they need to review the borrower's account within 30 days. Fine. Then we have, in cases where resolution plan is to be implemented, all lenders shall enter into intercreditor arrangement. The intercreditor arrangement shall provide that any decision agreed by lenders representing what percentage by value of total outstanding credit facilities and percentage of lenders by number is binding upon all the lenders. So when you have an intercreditor arrangement, we are talking about what kind of decision would be applicable on everybody. किस तरीके का decision सभी पे applicable होगा. So if 75% by value and 60% by number, if these lenders have what you can say agreed on to something, अगर इन्होंने किसी relation में what you can say decision लिया है, then everybody has to abide by that. See, in cases where resolution plan is to be implemented, all lenders shall enter into intercreditor arrangement. The intercreditor arrangement shall provide any decision agreed by lenders representing 75% by value outstanding and 60% of lenders by number shall be binding upon all the lenders. Next is resolution plan shall be implemented within. So कितने दिन के अंदर resolution plan implement हो जाना चाहिए आपका? Within 90 days, within 360 days, within 100 days, within 180 days. So within 180 days of the review period, your resolution plans should be implemented. This is as per RBI guidelines. Now next, resolution plans involving restructuring or change in ownership in respect of the accounts where the aggregate exposure of the lender is shall require independent credit evaluation by credit rating agency. So what we are talking about, see, in cases of accounts where the resolution plan is happening or the restructuring is happening and the aggregate exposure of lenders is, that means banks have given 100 crores and above. अगर banks ने 100 करोड़ या उससे ज़्यादा दे रखा है and for such exposures there is a what you can say restructuring that is happening, so we need an independent credit evaluation for that. That means independent credit evaluation by credit rating agencies need to do that. ठीक है, credit rating agencies को ये करना पड़ेगा. Now one more information with accounts aggregate exposure where goes 500 crores and beyond. ठीक है, जहां पे banks ने 500 करोड़ या उससे ज्यादा दे रखा है and such loans are getting restructured. अगर इस तरीके के लोन आपके restructure हो रहे हैं, then we need two such credit rating agencies, right? So we need two such evaluations of credit. Now next is for MSME accounts where aggregate exposure of the lender is less than 25 crores. ठीक है, अगर aggregate exposure 25 करोड़ से कम है, it may be considered for upgradation to standard only if demonstrates satisfactory performance. ठीक है, तो कहा गया है पहली कंडीशन तो ये है आपके एक्सपोजर से रिलेटेड. दैट मीन्स योर एक्सपोजर शुड बी लेसर देन 25 करोड़. आपने 25 करोड़ से कम का लोन दिया हुआ होना चाहिए. अब आप इसको स्टैंडर्ड कब घोषित कर सकते हैं? इफ देयर इज सेटिस्फैक्टरी परफॉर्मेंस. सेटिस्फैक्टरी परफॉर्मेंस का मतलब क्या? इफ नो पेमेंट remains overdue for a period of more than 30 days. अगर 30 दिन के टाइम पीरियड में कोई भी पेमेंट ओवरड्यू नहीं है, then that is something we consider as a satisfactory performance in relation to an MSME. ठीक है? In relation to MSME, that is something we consider as satisfactory performance. Now for MSME accounts, wait. So for MSME accounts, see, an account may be considered for upgradation to standard only if it demonstrates satisfactory performance. अब satisfactory performance का मतलब क्या? Specified period means a period of 1 year from the commencement of first payment of interest, whichever is later, on the credit facility with the longest period of moratorium under the terms. Satisfactory performance का मतलब no payment shall remain overdue for a period of more than 30 days. कोई भी period आपका 30 days से ज़्यादा overdue नहीं रहेगा. Just a second. Right? So what is the specified period we are talking about? You are looking at the period of 1 year, and then what is the satisfactory performance? Nothing is overdue more than a period of 30 days. Now question number 26. So that's what date of completion, right? So if the revised DCCO is within 2 years, 1 year from the original DCCO prescribed at the time of financial closure for infrastructure projects, then the provisioning requirement which needs to be done by the bank has to be. कितनी provisioning requirement होगी आपकी? 0.4. See, even though you have restructured it, भले ही आपने कल हमने इससे related question किया भी था, if you remember, if these kind of projects have been restructured, right? But this restructuring has happened within 2 years or 1 year. ठीक है? Within 2 years or 1 year, if this kind of restructuring has happened, then in that case, अगर आप provisioning requirement 0.4% भी लेके चलेंगे, then that is enough, right? Now next is if the revised DCCO is beyond 2 years and up to 4 years or 3 years from the original DCCO, as the case may be, for infrastructure projects, then provisioning requirement which needs to be done by the bank is 5%. See, beyond 2 years and up to 4 years or 3 years from the original DCCO. ठीक है, यहाँ पे भी restructuring हुई है, but it is beyond 2 years. So you see, your provisioning requirement is going to increase. आपका provisioning requirement जो है वो बढ़ जाएगा in case of such restructuring happens, right? And lastly, we have the provisioning in respect of existing loans of banks to companies having directors whose name has appeared more than once in the list of willful defaulters. They will attract accelerated provisioning. At what percentage for substandard unsecured portion that has been classified as NPA for last 8 months. तो यहाँ पे हम किसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं? ऐसी कंपनीज जहाँ पे डायरेक्टर्स willful defaulters की लिस्ट में हैं, अपार्ट फ्रॉम दी नॉर्मल प्रोविजनिंग. नॉर्मल प्रोविजनिंग तो आपको करनी ही करनी है, उसके अलावा आपको एक्सेलरेटेड प्रोविजनिंग भी करनी है, राइट? व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय एक्सेलरेटेड प्रोविजनिंग? एडिशनल प्रोविजन you need to create. This is different for all the kinds of assets, but for substandard asset with unsecured portion for last 8 months, you need to create a provision of 40%. So this is the list. You can see substandard asset, if it is a secured portion, up to 6 months if it is NPA, regular provisioning 15%, accelerated provisioning no need. Subsecured asset, substandard secured asset, if time period as an NPA is 6 months to 1 year, regular provisioning is 15%, accelerated provisioning 25%. And this is how it goes for unsecured portion up to 6 months, accelerated provisioning is 25%. Beyond 6 months, accelerated provisioning is 40%. So these were the questions that we wanted to discuss on the recovery and restructuring. Thank you so much for joining in. This is it for today.